The line stretched around the block. 400 people waiting in the Hong Kong heat. Some had been there since dawn. Some had traveled from Japan, from Thailand, from the Philippines. All of them clutching posters, photographs, magazines, anything that could be signed. Bruce Lee sat at a long table inside the Golden Harvest studio, signing his name for the 247th time that afternoon. He was tired. His hand was cramping. The smile he wore for each fan was becoming harder to maintain. These events always drained him, not the people themselves. Bruce genuinely loved his fans. But the repetition, the same smile, the same signature, the same brief exchange repeated hundreds of times. It reduced human connection to a mechanical process. He had learned to survive these events by finding small moments of genuine interaction. A child who reminded him of Brandon. A martial artist who asked a real question. An elderly person whose presence suggested decades of wisdom. These moments kept him human through the mechanical process. And then he saw her. An elderly woman, perhaps 70 years old, shuffling forward in the line. She wore simple clothes. Her hair was white. Her hands trembled with age. And she was holding something that made Bruce Lee stop breathing. An album cover. Not a movie poster. Not a photograph from his films. An album cover from 1959. Black and white. A young man in a fighting stance, holding drumsticks instead of fists. Dragon of Rhythm. The album that was never released. The album that Bruce thought had been completely destroyed. The album that represented the road not taken, the career abandoned, the dream surrendered. Bruce had not seen this cover in 13 years. He had not thought about it in almost as long. He had trained himself to forget, to move forward, to become what his father demanded and what Hollywood required. But here it was, in the hands of an elderly woman he had never met, in the middle of a promotional event, appearing like a ghost from a past he thought he had buried forever. His heart began to race. His palms grew damp. The practiced celebrity composure he had maintained through 247 autographs crumbled in an instant. Bruce stood up from the signing table. His assistant tried to stop him. "Mr. Lee, there are still 150 people waiting." Bruce did not hear him. He walked around the table, walked toward the elderly woman, walked toward the impossible object in her hands. "Where did you get that?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. The woman smiled, a smile that contained decades of secrets. "I was there," she said, "the night you recorded it. I was the tea girl at the studio. I was 17 years old." She held out the album. "And I have been waiting 63 years to give this back to you. This is the story of the album that would not die. The woman who kept it safe for 6 decades. And the afternoon when Bruce Lee finally held his lost dream in his hands. Hong Kong, November 1972. The meet and greet was supposed to be routine. A promotional event for Way of the Dragon. Fans would line up, Bruce would sign autographs, photographs would be taken. Standard celebrity work. But nothing about this afternoon would be standard. The elderly woman's name was Mei Ling Wong. She had worked at Radio Hong Kong Studios in 1959 when Bruce Lee was 18 years old and about to leave for America. She had been there the night Bruce recorded Dragon of Rhythm. She had served tea to Bruce and the producer Wong Kar-wai. She had watched them work through 3 consecutive nights, creating something unique. And she had been there the day the album was destroyed. "I saw everything," Mei Ling told Bruce. "They brought in the boxes of albums. They threw them into the furnace. I watched the covers curl and burn. I watched your music disappear." Bruce's eyes were glistening. "But you saved one." Mei Ling nodded. "One box was left unattended, near the door. I was supposed to take it to the furnace with the others. But I did not." She looked down at the album in her hands. "I hid it under my coat. I took it home. I told no one." "Why?" Mei Ling was quiet for a moment. "Because I saw your face that day, when you came to the studio and watched them destroy your work. You were trying to be strong. You were trying to obey your father. But I saw the truth." She reached out and touched Bruce's arm. "You were heartbroken, and I could not let everything be destroyed. I had to save something. For you. For someday." Bruce was crying now, not hiding it, not controlling it, just letting the tears flow in front of 400 waiting fans and a dozen photographers. 63 years, he said. "You kept it for 63 years." "I was waiting," Mei Ling said. "I was waiting for the right moment to return it." She held out the album. "This is the right moment. You are famous now. You are respected. Your father can no longer hurt you for this. And you deserve to have your first dream back. Subscribe and leave a comment. because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. Bruce took the album from Mei Ling's trembling hands. He held it carefully, reverently, as if it might crumble at his touch. The cover was exactly as he remembered. His 18-year-old face, confident and hopeful. The fighting stance that merged martial arts with music. The title in traditional Chinese characters. Dragon of Rhythm. He turned it over. Read the track listing on the back. 5 songs he had not thought about in 13 years. Evening Cha-Cha. Written during a sleepless night when Bruce could not stop thinking about America. Fist and Beat. An experimental piece that mixed percussion with Wing Chun timing. Water Rhythm. A meditation on flow, on adaptation, on becoming like water years before he would make that phrase famous. Street Dance. An energetic track inspired by the Kowloon nightclub scene. Dragon Dreams. The final song. A ballad about ambition and uncertainty, about leaving home for unknown shores. Bruce's hand trembled as he read the names. I wrote these, he said. I forgot I wrote these. Mei Ling smiled. You did not forget. You buried them. But buried things can be dug up. Bruce looked up from the album. Have you listened to it? Mei Ling shook her head. Never. I have had it for 63 years, but I never played it. Not once. Why not? Because it was not mine to listen to. It was yours. Your music. Your dream. I was only the keeper. Bruce stared at her in amazement. You had this in your home for 63 years, and you never once played it. Not once. Why did you not sell it? You could have made money. Especially after I became famous. Mei Ling looked at him with something like pity. Mr. Li, some things are not for sale. Some things have value that cannot be measured in money. She gestured at the album. This is your heart. Your young heart, before the world changed you. How could I sell someone's heart? Bruce embraced her. Right there, in front of 400 fans and a dozen photographers. Bruce Lee wrapped his arms around the elderly T-girl and held her. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for keeping my heart safe. The crowd was confused. They had come for autographs, not emotional reunions. But those who were close enough to see the album, to understand what was happening, began to cry themselves. Something sacred was occurring. Something beyond celebrity. Something real. When Bruce finally released Mei Ling, he made a decision. He turned to his assistant. Cancel the rest of the signing. Mr. Li, there are still 150 people. Cancel it. Reschedule it. Pay for their transportation to come back another day. But cancel it now. He looked at Mei Ling. You and I are going to listen to this together. Right now? Today? After 63 years, you deserve to hear what you saved. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. They went to Bruce's home in Kowloon Tong. Linda was there. She welcomed Mei Ling warmly, understanding immediately that something significant was happening. Bruce set up his record player, cleaned the vinyl carefully, placed it on the turntable. Mei Ling sat in a comfortable chair, watching with wide eyes. She had imagined this moment for decades. Now it was here. Are you ready? Bruce asked. I have been ready for 63 years. Bruce lowered the needle. The first notes of Evening Cha-Cha filled the room, and Bruce Lee heard his own voice for the first time in 13 years. Not singing, playing. The percussion was unmistakable. Complex rhythms that merged Chinese and Western traditions. The sound of a young man discovering what he could create. Bruce sat down heavily. The music transported him. Back to 1959. Back to the small studio. Back to the nights when he thought he might become a musician instead of a martial artist. The memories flooded through him. Wong Kar-wai counting off the tempo. The old piano in the corner. The smell of cigarettes and tea. The feeling that anything was possible. Mei Ling watched Bruce's face. You remember, she said. I remember everything. The first song ended. The second began. Fist and Beat, with its unusual time signatures and martial arts influences. Linda listened with growing amazement. She had never known this side of her husband. The musician. The percussionist. The young man who had dreams beyond fighting. You never told me, she said. Bruce did not take his eyes off the spinning record. I buried it. I thought it was gone forever. I thought there was no point in mourning something that no longer existed. He looked at her. But it did exist. All along. Kept safe by a T-girl who understood something I did not. What? That dreams do not die. They just wait. The album played through. All 5 songs. 23 minutes of music that only 3 people had ever heard. Bruce, Wong Kar-wai, and now Mei Ling and Linda. When the final notes of Dragon Dreams faded, the room was silent. Bruce sat motionless, processing. Mei Ling spoke first. "It is beautiful," she said. "I am so glad I never sold it. I am so glad I waited." Bruce stood up, walked to where Mei Ling sat, knelt before her. "I have a question," he said, "and I need an honest answer." Mei Ling nodded. "Why did you come today? Why now, after 63 years? Mei Ling was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I am dying, Mr. Li." The words hung in the air. "The doctors give me 3 months, maybe 4, and I realized that if I died without returning this to you, it would be lost forever. My children do not know its value. They would throw it away or sell it to a collector who would lock it in a vault." She reached out and took Bruce's hand. "I wanted you to have it while I was alive. I wanted to see your face when you held it. I wanted to know that my 63 years of waiting meant something." Bruce's tears returned. "It means everything," he said. "You gave me back a part of myself I thought was gone. You showed me that the past is never truly lost." He stood up. "I want to do something for you. You do not need to do anything. Seeing your face was enough." "No." Bruce shook his head firmly. "You kept my dreams safe for 63 years. I need to honor that." He thought for a moment. Then he walked to the record player, removed the album, held it out to Mei Ling. "Take it." Mei Ling's eyes widened. "Mr. Li, I cannot." "Take it. It is yours now. You earned it. You protected it. You loved it even when you had never heard it." He placed the album in her hands. "I do not need the physical object anymore. You gave me back the memory. You reminded me of who I was before the world decided who I should be." He smiled. "The album belongs with you. Let your children know its value. Let them understand what their mother did. Let them see that some people protect dreams even when they have no reason to." Mei Ling held the album to her chest. "I will treasure it," she whispered, "for whatever time I have left." Bruce Lee spent the next 2 hours with Mei Ling. They talked about 1959, about the studio, about Wong Kar-wai and the nights of recording, about the day the albums were destroyed and the moment Mei Ling decided to save one. They talked about the years between, how Mei Ling had married, raised children, grown old, how she had kept the album hidden in a chest, taking it out only on special occasions to remind herself that she carried a secret. And they talked about what the music meant. "You were already Bruce Lee," Mei Ling said. "Even at 18. The way you moved when you played, the rhythm in your body. It was the same as your fighting. The same energy. The same flow." Bruce nodded. "I did not understand that then. I thought I had to choose. Music or martial arts. Art or fighting. But they were never separate. They were always the same thing expressed differently." He looked at the album one more time. "My father forced me to choose. But he was wrong. The choice was false. I could have been both. I was already both." He smiled. "And thanks to you, I know that now." When Mei Ling left that evening, Bruce walked her to her taxi. The photographers were gone. The fans had dispersed. It was just the two of them on the quiet street. "Thank you," Bruce said again. "For everything." Mei Ling took his hands in hers. "Promise me something. Anything. Do not bury yourself again. Do not let anyone tell you who you must be. You are the dragon who plays music. You are the fighter who dances. You are everything, not just one thing." She squeezed his hands. "Promise me you will remember that." "I promise." Mei Ling climbed into the taxi, waved through the window, disappeared into the Hong Kong night. Bruce stood on the street for a long time, watching the taxi's lights fade. Then he went inside and began to plan. The next album. The one he would record himself. The one that would finally release Dragon of Rhythm to the world 63 years after it was created. He did not know he had only 8 months left to live. He did not know that the album would never be completed. But that night, for a few precious hours, Bruce Lee was whole again. The musician and the martial artist. The dreamer and the achiever. The young man from 1959 and the legend of 1972. United by a T-girl who kept a secret for 63 years. United by an album that would not die. United by the truth that dreams wait. No matter how long it takes. They wait. Mei Ling Wong died 4 months after that meeting. She passed peacefully, her children said, holding the album to her chest. It was buried with her. Some things are too sacred to separate. November 1972. Hong Kong. A meet and greet. 400 fans. One elderly woman. One impossible album. And a moment when Bruce Lee was reminded that he had always been complete. The music never died. It just waited. For the right moment. For the right person. For the reunion that was always meant to happen. The dragon learned to play again. Even if only for one afternoon. This story is a work of fiction inspired by real-life themes.